Good day, everyone, and I'll be the one to report the protective and reactive approaches to security in cyberspace. So, the world's reliance on international computer networks fosters transnational cybercrime, allowing sophisticated criminals to operate remotely, hide their tracks, and complicate investigations. To respond effectively, systems operator must detect intrusions in real time, and investigators may need to conduct large scale electronic evidence analysis. So, this requires international cooperation and significant technological, economic, and human resources. However, enhancing security often involves trade offs such as reduced network performance, loss of privacy, and limitations on anonymity. Additionally, domestic laws and priorities may conflict with international cooperation efforts, and restrictions on cross border data can hinder commerce. So, as global connectivity grows, nations, businesses, and individuals increasingly depend on interconnected digital systems. However, this dependence also makes the vulnerable or make the cyber criminals vulnerable who can exploit these systems without being physically present. So, cyber criminals often work across borders, taking advantage of differing laws and jurisdictions to evade detection. So, their ability to hide their digital footprints makes the law hard or make the law enforcement hard to trace them, significantly complicating efforts to investigate and prosecute these crimes. So, combating cyber crime requires proactive and sophisticated responses. Networks, administrators, and cybersecurity teams must monitor systems constantly to detect breaches as they happen. Investigators also face the challenges of analyzing vast quantities of digital data to find clues, trace criminal activity, and gather evidence. So, this process demands international cooperation as many cybercrimes span multiple countries and it requires advanced technology, substantial funding, and skilled professionals. Improving cybersecurity measures can come at cost. For instance, implementing strict security protocols might slow down network performance. Additionally, some measures like surveillance and data tracking can infringe on users' privacy or reduce their ability to remain anonymous online. So these trade-offs highlights that the tension between maintaining security and preserving fundamental freedoms such as privacy and freedom of expression. So each country has its own laws and priorities regarding cybersecurity and privacy, which can create obstacles to international collaboration. For example, with what is considered legal in one country might be illegal in another. Furthermore, regulations that restrict the flow of data across borders, such as data localization laws, can complicate international investigations and disrupt global business, especially in sectors reliant to data exchange. There are two main approaches to cybersecurity, the protective and the reactive. So, the protective approach aims to prevent access and reduce vulnerability for internet protocols, firewalls, encryption, intrusion detection systems, and trusted networks. It emphasizes automation and expert oversight. In contrast, the reactive approach focuses on deterring crime through investigation, prosecution, and punishment. It involves more intrusive methods such as traffic analysis, content scanning, and real time monitoring, relying on law enforcement access to various networks. Both approaches involve monitoring for unauthorized activity. The protective approach is less intrusive and generally more privacy friendly, but may face limitations in effectiveness. The reactive approach is more intrusive and it may impact civil liberties but can be essential when protective measures fail or are not feasible. Ultimately, the two approaches are complementary, and their use depends on the resources and preferences of those implementing them. So, cybersecurity strategies can be generally be divided to two categories. The protective approach focuses on prevention, making systems harder to attack using tools like encryption, firewalls, and secure communication protocols. So it relies on technology and expert oversight to keep systems safe. While the reactive approach, in contrast, deals with cybercrime after it occurs. It includes law enforcement efforts to investigate and prosecute offenders and may involve monitoring online activity or analyzing traffic to identify threats and track down perpetrators. Privacy and data protection. Privacy in cyberspace is the most controversial and publicly debated issue. So it concerns law enforcement, business practices, and an individual's ability to control personal data in electronic format or accumulated during the internet use. Commercial exploitation of personal data without consent is already leading to enhanced legal protections for privacy. The enforcements of such protections raises the issue of using protective versus reactive methods and what can be done to ensure any method used will protect privacy interest against unwanted intrusions. Privacy is not an absolute, well defined, or uniformly protected value. It is linked to an individual's independence, dignity, and integrity. Individuals, organizations, and societies have traditionally sacrificed some privacy in exchange for greater security, economic gain, or convenience. Trade-offs between privacy and intrusion reflect different historical and social contexts. Protection of privacy has evolved historically through international and domestic law. Privacy is a fundamental human right recognized by the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights and many other international and regional instruments and treaties. These provisions create the basic international law framework for the right to privacy, which intends the cyberspace. So the concept of privacy varies across cultures and legal systems. While privacy is often associated with personal dignity and autonomy, people are sometimes willing to give up aspects of their privacy in return for benefits like convenience or safety. These compromises are shaped by social norms, historical events, and local attitude towards surveillance and security. Over time, both international and national legal systems have developed mechanisms to safeguard privacy. The Declaration of Human Rights in 1948 and other treaties recognize privacy as a core human right. These frameworks extend that the digital environments establishing the legal basis for privacy in the online world. On the national level, privacy is protected through constitutional and legislative instruments and self regulation. Nearly every country recognizes a constitutional right to privacy, including inviolability of home and secrecy of communications. In some countries like South Africa and Hungary, constitutions include rights include rights to access and control of personal information. In others, such as the United States, Ireland, and India, privacy rights have been established through other legal provisions and judicial rulings. The advent of information technology provided a new context and legal impetus for protecting personal data. The first modern legislation on collecting and handling personal data emerged in the early 1970s in Sweden. So, most of the countries have legal provisions ensuring citizens' privacy, often include their constitutions. So, these protections usually cover private communications and sanctity of one's home. Some nations go further by granting citizens explicit rights to access and manage their personal data. So, in others, privacy rights are enforced through laws passed by legislatures or upheld through court decisions. Lastly, with the rise of digital technology, new privacy risks emerge, prompting the creation of laws specifically targeting the protection of personal data. Sweden was the pioneer in this area, introducing the first modern data protection law in the early 1970s. This development marked the beginning of a global trend toward formalizing and strengthening data privacy legislation to address the challenges of the information age.